Hello, my dear, and welcome to Here and Now, the moment when we actually start a journey with you. And our first topic is the red and the black. And you already been on the journey. The moment you touched Human Design System, you had your personal reading or did Living Your Design or both. This is something you immediately saw on the chart. So when you look at the chart and you see these two sides, two columns with planets, but for some reason they are of a different color, there are different numbers, and you ask yourself, yeah, that's what I did actually, when I asked myself, if there are planets, why would they be twice? And yes, we already discussed with you in introduction that we have two crystals. They are being activated in a very, very different way. And that's why we are binary beings. And the red and the black are the foundation of understanding this binary structure of who we are, how it operates, and how to understand ourselves through the chart that expresses this binary existence through these two colors, the red and the black. So what I did here is I took the chart and showed the two sides separately. And that's what we can do. And by the end of this class, I already prepare you for a fun homework that is really good for you to do, is to make your own by hand. Yeah, but before we reach that moment, let's dive into such a simple theory. I mean, what can we do with the red and the black? We say conscious and unconscious. Done deal, end of a class, right? But there are a lot of nuances, and that's what we're gonna do now. Step by step, uncover those nuances. And the first thing we do is like, okay, we kind of prepare the chart, put it aside, and just observe it. Two different sides, two different realities, and yet all drawn together to be that illusion of reality that you are. And there are so many things, within the redness and within the blackness. So the nature of the crystal is different. The moment the egg is welcome, the sperm is welcome into the egg, what happens is microatomic explosion. And actually, if you ever seen, I highly recommend you finding that video. There's a video that is made from that moment. You see this connection. Yeah, it looks like basically the cell joining the cell, and then there is a light around. Actually, if I will find it, I'll put it in our common space for you to observe it. That moment is the moment when the design crystal with magnetic monopole or biomagnetic monopole is drawn from the center of the planet into the woman's body. And that is the moment when the magnetic monopole separates from the design crystal and they each do their job. So design crystal starts building and building and building, so it is there from the beginning. But 88 degrees before the actual birth occurs, that's when the activation happens, the activation of the crystal. Okay, so there are two different things. The entry of the crystal happens, basically, that's what starts life. But the activation, which means there is a very concrete information inserted or imprinted, happens 88 degrees, which is roughly 88, 89 days before the birth. And that is the moment also when personality crystal is drawn into the body. And it takes another roughly 3 months to kind of settle into the form, into the vehicle, so it can prepare itself for activation. And then the moment of coming out of the body, that is the moment when personality crystal is actually activated. Okay, so those are these two parts that we are: red, the unconscious, the body, the vehicle, and black, the conscious, the personality, persona. And those together create this illusion of reality. And then, of course, there is magnetic monopole, this force that keeps those two crystals together in this one entity that human body is. That magic of reality that we already discussed with you in the introductory lecture, and what you went through also in Living Your Design course, understanding deeper this concept, because this is the foundation of human design, to understand something bigger, so your soul gets prepared for its journey after leaving the body. Understanding that force and what it is to follow your inner direction. There is way beyond the concept of mental following the direction or logical following the direction. Something that is so primordial to your life, and which you can truly connect to when you do connect to yourself and find that eternal universal love, that driver that drives you and way beyond. And these two souls that you carry are kind of both consciously and unconsciously are following that force in their own way. And you know, I felt like bringing you the original slide that Ra was showing to his first wave students to depict how the process is happening, how the neutrino field is piercing the design crystal, the personality crystal, and actually they reflect same information in a very different way. So you can have one information, but the body filters it in one way and personality filters it in a different way. And that's why so many people feel disintegrated, consciously or not, in their life. It's like one part wants this, another part wants that. And we can see it in many different levels. In Living Your Design, we looked at it from the perspective of definition and splits. Yeah, the split definition, the triple, quadruple split have their own kind of entities. Now here in the red and the black, we look also at this process of disintegration in order to integrate, in order to come together. So that's a part of the differentiation process that we are going through. And the terminology that we use is unconscious and conscious. So design is unconscious, is what is not in the conscious, not on the surface level. And it's very important to keep your vocabulary correct. So unconscious is not subconscious, and I literally put it on a separate slide so you see it with your eyes, especially if you have a lot of collective definition, which means you're visual. It's good that you literally see it. Why is that important? Because unconscious still has the consciousness which is not. Subconscious is which is under the consciousness. But when we talk about design and personality, we actually talk about them being equally present there. So it's not sub, it's not under, yeah, it's just no consciousness, no possibility of mind to enter that field, to enter that information. Yeah, is that clear? Yeah, that is the difference. The unconscious is still there. All you need is to know it is there. And then by observation process, slowly, you will arrive to the space of, I recognize it, I know. It is unconscious, but I know it's there. I see it there. When the subconscious is a very, very different realm, and it's mostly used in the psychology. So to start from the beginning, another beginning, I'm kind of introducing you few beginnings here, is we start the conscious journey from the moment of birth. And what is the moment of birth? In human design, there's a very specific explanation of that. Yeah, so it's not when they cut the belly if it's cesarean. It's not when they cut umbilical. Yeah, and then it's the moment when the body takes its space. When the body takes its space. That's why I put here one of the formulas of space, so you understand that physically is the head shows it's still not taking the whole space. It's when the last bit of a leg comes out of the mother, that's when we can say that the body took its space. That's the moment of activation. And actually, what I realized there is a really small device, small and cheap device that I highly recommend to those who are preparing to bring new humans into the world and really want to give a good service to their life and know the exact time, not just hour and minute, but also second and millisecond, is the device that is like a video camera for car. So it really costs a very small amount of money, but when you buy them or you offer those who prepare to become parents and you put them in the room where the birth takes place, you don't have to think to remember, because in this sacred ceremony the presence is so important, to be fully present to the process. So having that device allows you to know the exact minute, second, and millisecond of birth when it's installed correctly. Just a side note, but that's the moment that we use, the moment of birth. And that moment, everything is basically decided. So the unconscious design, yeah, and they have both 13 activations, planets plus 11 planets plus 2 lunar nodes. Yeah, we have a different kind of synonyms or metaphors for conscious and unconscious. So the unconscious we call tunnels. This is something hidden. Tunnel, it goes under. When the conscious is the road, is something that is seen, it's there. Those are your definitions, archetypes, qualities that you think that you know. Yeah, not just you think that you know, you think that you know. Because in the way you are an eternal student in your definition and in what you are conscious on. And year by year in the experiment, you're getting deeper and deeper into knowing, who you are. So the unconscious is a definition of a physical body. It's a physical, it's not by the way just what you see, it's a bit more than that. But there is this vehicle quality to it. When the conscious definition is the mind, it's the persona, it's the personality. And by the way, I really love etymology, and I discovered, I had to do a different slide for it because it's just so fascinating. The word persona comes from per, Latin, through, and sona is sound. So it's persona is through the sound, which we know is actually sound is embodiment of frequency. So persona is what being born through the frequency, which exactly matches the mechanics of personality crystal. And I find it fascinating piece of information that you can kind of develop into your own understanding. The personality crystal, that's the soul, in other words. Well, we try not to be too spiritual in human design, but this is kind of obvious that that's what it is. The soul of the body is the form. And when the body is unaware, you don't know why it hurts from time to time. You need to go to some specialist to diagnose, to check, because the mind does not have access there. When the conscious is what you think, you know, what you think is there, sometimes it's not exactly what you think, but at least you have a conscious access to it. And what's interesting, that even though there is this part of us that we don't know, that we don't have access to, others do have access to. Others see in us what we don't see. Just like we see in others what they don't see. And remember the situation when you are trying to explain to someone, but don't you see you are like this and like that? And they're like, no, you're talking about someone else. This resistance that the mind has to the reflection. You know, I had actually 2 or 3 incidents when somebody, the woman, was coming for a session and would say, he wrote me this message and I don't know how he can talk like this. He broke up with me and he told me all these horrible things. And I would take the message and start reading with a very respectful tone, even though obviously it could be written in a very charged emotionally tone. And then I would explain word by word where is it coming from on the body graph. And the reaction of the woman was always crying, was always shocking, was always like basically mind-blowing. Because she would not see it in her. And of course, the person was charged emotionally, so everything was amplified and exaggerated. But when we go in a very cool way to the essence of reflections we receive, and we go through this level of blame and projection and expectations, we always get to the core. Every reflection has something that we can learn from. Yeah, that's another thought, yeah, for you to develop in your own way. So that is this conscious and unconscious, what you see and what you don't see. And in the way you can think about these like in openness and definition. Definition, you know, and that's again, it's not like this we see and this we don't see. It all depends on what stage of evolution you are. Because it's so much easier for the not self to actually see the openness and to neglect definition, to neglect the true nature, to neglect that consistent, constant, fixed life force that we are. Most of inhabitants of this planet do not play their own instrument. They do not play their music. They want to play someone else's music. Not like they want, but we still collectively did not gain tools for the true embodiment of the self. So as the result, yeah, there is a lot of confusion around everything. And so people try to live from their openness, not knowing and not recognizing what the definition is, and turning this potential wisdom into a lot of uncomfortable states, yeah? Trying to grasp, to fix where the wisdom is, to enjoy and let go. And so this definition, this life force that we are, yeah, this vital energy, is in the way something that we consciously can see. But if we're not friends with the conscious, it's not possible to see it. And vice versa. So we talk about openness, yeah, as the place where we designed to be conditioned, even though we can also be conditioned in definition, but it's a very different mechanics of conditioning there. Yeah, and openness is there where we get homogenized, and then of course it doesn't allow us for this fine-tuning of our frequency, of the connection with the unconscious. And in human design, we're learning how to transgress that, how to connect to both sides, and not to try to fix, because we all try to fix all the time. Yeah, that's the way. And of course, the solution is to practice not listening to the mind, not acting on the mind, being present in the body. So easy to say, but it's a daily, hourly, minutely practice. And understanding your conscious and unconscious is having an additional key to that process. Because personality is something on the surface. Yeah, that's literally there, but you got to see the surface. You got to look at the surface as well. Yeah, even though it's visible and know, the mind brings interpretation. That's why we say it's something that you think that you think that you know, and not just something you know. And design, process of learning to accept the potential. It's not so easy. I'll give you an example in a second, yeah? Because the mind is like, no, it's not about me. I don't want it, I'm not interested, leave me alone. There's always rejection of the red side. And when you'll start offering readings, if you will one day, even to your beloved ones, if you don't want to make human design your profession, you will want to look at the charts of those around you, and just to look at their red chart and to give them the keynote of their red chart, you'll always or mostly will get, it's not about me, I don't resonate with it, it's not true. So get ready for it and let me know if it's really so, if you will try, hopefully, to have it as your as one of your homeworks. So as I mentioned before, we're using the metaphor tunnels and roads. So tunnels and roads is literally the tunnels, red, the unknown, and roads are visible. And I found this beautiful picture that exactly illustrates, yeah, that the tunnel, when we say the tunnel, it's this Swiss Alps kind of a tunnel that's totally made inside. Yeah? It's not just this beton covered, but it's in the rock. So it doesn't look like there is a road. So our unconscious is that space in us that is completely about, there is nothing there, I don't know, I don't see, I'm not interested, it's not about me. Yeah? And those two, the roads and the tunnels, the visible and invisible, go hand by hand together, being who you are in this one body that you are. And somehow they gotta coexist. And your work is, of course, to discover this unconscious part and to make it part of your being, part of who you are. Not from the mind, but literally from your physical body. So the red aspects, yeah, they're tunnels. Think about it. They're unseen. And identification itself is a process. What does it give you? What are you able to receive? Yeah, let's look at it from different perspective. It's always a surprise for the mind to discover that the body is like this or like that. And personality, even though it's on the surface, it's covered. Yeah, it's covered with ideas of what personality should be and all of that. So the word unconscious means something specific in human design. No conscious access. I am repeating it, but every time I'm repeating it, I'm doing it slightly from a different perspective. Yeah, no conscious access. It doesn't mean no access. The access is there, but you gotta go through. Yeah, enter the tunnel. And once you're in the tunnel, you cannot go left and right. There is only one way there. And separating your chart, is a really important part in your human design attunement to your nature, because you're gonna incorporate that in your actual body when you do that. And you want to do it, not just understand, but to incorporate this knowledge into your body. Yeah, that is important. Now, there is a situation that is called the overpass. And it's important that you know this definition. So overpass, as I'm showing you here on this example, is when the channel is also red and also black. It can be fully red and black, or one gate can be red and black. So it will be like partial overpass or a full overpass if it's going to be a full channel. And that is a situation, yeah, when you maybe kind of expect things to be there, but still cannot fully identify with them. So it's the mind is guessing, but something is overriding the mind. Yeah, that's kind of here, but not here. You start seeing the limitation. And usually the process will be either rejecting or like really wanting that kind of quality. Of course, for this you need to understand the gate. But that is the process. It's more, there's more variety of kind of negotiation with the mind when there is an overpass. So it's another thing to look at and to be aware of. And if you are using MMI, what you can do is you go to the first thing, I think it's file, and then you go to print. Yeah, so just in case you use this program, if you want to have that program, you can either buy it in Jovian, or you can also talk to me about it, and I can give you like a simple version. And there you put the print, and you don't need to actually print it, but when you do so, it's going to give you this option. When you press the print button, it's going to save a PDF on your computer. So that's how you can have this version. But honestly, I would prefer that you would do it first time yourself with like a red pen and a black pen, so your body incorporates that, as I said before. I gave you here my version, and you see I have 3 channels in my design, and all of them have a red elements. 2 of them are completely red, and 1 of them is half red, half black, which makes me on the conscious level a reflector. Obviously, I'm not a reflector, because when we speak, when we name the type, we actually name the structure of the aura. So my aura is an aura of the projector. But on the conscious level, I think I'm a reflector. And to discover this was quite a mind-blowing thing, because I realized why my mind is looking for surprise, why it's so important for my mind to be in the specific environments. It's not just open G center, it's not just this and that. It became an additional element in my process. And most important, when I was presented my inner authority and I heard that I'm an emotional being, I completely neglected that part. It's like my mind almost erased that part of information. And to me, it's one of the strongest personal processes I went through. Because I remember the moment I was explained what is emotionality, what is emotional chemistry. I was like, there is a mistake. It's not about me. I'm not emotional. What kind of waves are you talking about? Is it really so? Are you sure? Like, really, my rejection was above and beyond. I actually now think about it, I cannot even believe that's what it was. And it took me around 2 years to catch up with not realization, with the experience of watching the chemistry repeating itself, of realizing what's ratcheting wave, of what is peaks and crashes, and how I live it in the body. When my mind thinks that my emotions are like this, flat line, just straight line, nothing really emotionally happening. I can withhold. I can handle. Nothing's really happening. Incredible illusion of the mind that I lived in. It didn't really bother me, honestly, but discovering, my body's life is discovering the whole universe. And I wish you have a process that allows you to discover your unconscious, whatever it is, and it's going to allow you to live the fullest life regardless of what's happening outside of you. Because that's what it's all about. So for your homework or home play, as I like to say, I'd like you to look at the split views on an MMI and watch it. Or you can go other way around. You can take two white body graphs and color, look at the gates and color only black in white and only red in another white. And then compare with an MMI version. That can be much more productive. And you know, when you're doing it with your hands, there is a process of what's called kinetics. So psychology and kinesiology, meeting together. So when you're doing, also if you're taking notes, which I highly recommend, especially if you're visual, if you're a pure individual, you're very acoustic, maybe it's not so relevant to you. But if you're visual, it's so fundamental that your body is involved in the learning process. And then taking notes or retaking notes, from my course, from other sources that you're using, is fundamentally important. Yeah, when you do so, your body receives information, your unconscious receives information, and not just your conscious. Does that make sense to you? So then, if you are willing to really take our work seriously, I want to offer you next level. And just as I showed you here on my example, to write the whole thing. You can do it with your own body graph, especially if you're a generator type, or you can do it with those who you consider important people, if you're a projector, and do whatever you want if you're a manifestor and a reflector. There you have, for reflector, it's just gates, obviously, but you will write your strategy, authority, conscious roads, unconscious tunnels. You look at the overpass and you see the whole picture and write it down, just like I show you here on the example. And I will provide to you the pages so you can use them, and hope it was a meaningful class to you that explained to you in more detail what is red and what is black. And let me know if you have questions, okay? See you in the next class.